Hello everyone, mabuhay! You're about to watch Research Lecture Series. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon so that you will be notified with the upcoming series. You may also share the link to your students, classmates, or friends. Enjoy watching! This is a research spectrum that presents a snapshot of the entirety of this research lecture series. In Series 1 to 3, the first tier or level was presented, particularly the meaning, nature, and classifications of research. In Series 4 to 6, the second tier was elaborated, particularly the research methods, qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. In Series 7, the third tier or level comprising the research designs, exploratory, descriptive, and explanatory were compared and contrasted. For this 8 series, the different types of exploratory research design shall be presented exclusively. This series aims to present the meaning and nature of phenomenology, sample size, sampling technique and selection criteria, data collection, data processing and analysis, reduction and bracketing, thematic analysis, writing style, and sample paper. Phenomenology is both a philosophy and an approach to research. As a school of philosophy, phenomenology is a science of pure phenomena, more specifically as the theory of the essence of the pure phenomenon of knowing as defined by Edmund Husserl in his pioneering lectures in The Idea of Phenomenology in 1907. Edelshirst enumerated different philosophical approaches that include transcendental phenomenology founded by Husserl, existential phenomenology which was articulated by Merleau-Ponty, and heuristic phenomenology founded by Heidegger. As an approach to research, phenomenology explores and describes what people experience on particular phenomena. A phenomenological research holds both the characteristics of philosophy and as a method of inquiry. Phenomenon is defined as any event, circumstance, or experience that is apparent to the senses and that can be scientifically described or appraised. Lived experience is a personal knowledge about the world gained through direct first-hand involvement in everyday events rather than through representations constructed by other people. Phenomenologists are interested in all types of human experience, which can include both the mundane, such as being at home, as well as dramatic experiences of everyday life, such as what it is like to be a victim of domestic violence. Phenomenology employs two processes which are gathering of lived experience and reflecting on them. Van Manen attests that the gathering of and reflecting on lived experience material by means of conversational interviewing may be two different stages in a single research project. The underlying belief is that it is best to research phenomena through the eyes of the persons having the experience. Phenomenology is the careful and systematic reflective study of the lived experience. Phenomenological studies mainly gather lived experience materials such as anecdotes, stories, recollections, or experiences, or serve as an occasion to reflect with a partner or interviewee of the conversational relation on the topic at hand. Lived experience responds not only to people's experiences, but also to how people live through and respond to those experiences. Phenomenology involves small sample size and utilizes a non-probability sampling technique. Sample size in a phenomenological study may vary from 2 to 25. However, there is no generally agreed upon consensus on the number of informants required, explains Klenk. On the other hand, nurse researchers using phenomenology tend to limit the sample size of 5 to 20 participants depending on the nature of the topic and accessibility of the people who meet the criteria. Polkinghorne recommended samples ranging in size from 6 to 16 people. The researcher has to recruit participants who qualify the selection criteria. To illustrate, a nurse researcher who conducts a phenomenological study on water birthing needs to look for mothers who had given birth in a bathtub or in a pool, perhaps through referrals known as snowball sampling technique. After this, an invitation is extended to the potential subjects, specifying the date, time and venue, and the purpose of the interview. There are two requirements for selection of interviewees, which are: first, a subject has had the experience that is the topic of the research, and second, a subject has the capacity to provide full and sensitive descriptions of the experience under examination. Polkinghorne said that error that phenomenological researchers can make in selection is to choose subjects that produce a narrow range of descriptions. The two commonly used data collection modes in phenomenology are interview and written accounts. Researchers gather descriptions from the subjects in various forms, the two most common ones being written statements and the preferred method, interviews. Exhaustive digging of information is undertaken in the interview in order to shed light to the vague phenomenon. The researcher can adopt interviews, observations, and discussions as data collection strategies within a phenomenological method of inquiry. Retrospective interviews are commonly undertaken where the key informants are asked to recall their past experiences or information from the past. Interview can be either one-on-one interview or in groups, in the research locale, or to a different venue where the researcher and the interviewees agree to meet. Creswell defines one-on-one interviews are the data collection processes in which the researcher asks questions to and records the answers from only one participant in the study at a time. Polkinghorne suggested to gather a number of naive descriptions from people who are having or who have had the experience under investigation. Focus group discussions, or FGD on the other hand, provide an interaction among interviewees, collection of extensive data, and participation by all individuals in the group. Prior to the usage of the term FGD among contemporary researchers, Spiegelberg in 1975 called this method of data collection as cooperative or group phenomenology. Gray has apprehensions on the use of FGD, saying that since the goal of phenomenological research is to get individuals to describe their experiences in as uncontaminated a way as possible, the use of research methods that involves groups is inappropriate since individuals will be influenced by the views of others. Gray, however, supposed that such method may also be relevant to phenomenological research in that the approach may help researchers to bracket their assumptions when they are challenged by group members. Another limitation lies on the FGDs wherein they require the researcher to find consensus on questions so one score can be marked for all individuals in the group. In addition, some individuals may dominate the conversation, leading to responses that do not reflect the consensus of the group. Polkinghorne suggests suggested that researcher frames questions that can help subjects to report their experiences by asking, "What did you experience?" or "What was it like for you?" instead of "What happened?" either orally, in response to interview questions, or in written statements. Interview sessions are conducted usually from half hour to an hour, although sometimes lasting for several hours, and lasting from 2 days to 2 weeks. Data collection can be captured through note-taking, audio or video recording. If the event is an interaction, then it should be recorded either on audio or video media. For individual interviews, the norm is just an audio recording. Today's smartphones are capable of note-taking, audio or video recording, and image capturing. The data of a phenomenology are the transcripts of the interviews and the written accounts obtained from the individuals who shared their lived experiences about the phenomenon under investigation. The aim of data analysis is to identify the essences of the phenomenon. For example, the essence of loneliness, the essence of being a mother, or the essence of being a participant in a particular program. The goal of phenomenological inquiry then is not to determine or assert causal explanations, but rather to seek and then articulate vivid, compelling descriptions from first-hand accounts of such experiences as they are embodied or lived out by the research participants. The same author stated that phenomenology aims not to define but to illuminate meaning or to bring to light how the phenomenon appears to the individual, how it feels, and how it is experienced. The experiences of the participants obtained through interviews or via written accounts are transcribed, bracketed, analyzed, and compared to others to determine their essences. This module presents 6 different procedures in processing phenomenological data that include Hickner's in 1985, Hickner's in 1999, Polkington's, Bagel's, Georgi and Morley's, and Smith and others. Hickner in 1985 provided step-by-step procedures in analyzing data, which include the following: 1. Transcription of the taped interview. 2. Bracketing and phenomenological reduction. 3. Listening to the interview for a sense of the whole. 4. Delineating units of general meaning. 5. Delineating units of meaning relevant to the research question. 6. Training independent judges to verify the units of relevant meaning. 7. Eliminating redundancies. 8. Clustering units of relevant meaning. 9. Determining themes for clusters of meaning. 10. Writing a summary for each individual interview. 11. Return to the participant with a summary and themes. Conduct second interview. 12. Modifying themes and summary. 13. Identifying general and unique themes for all the interviews. 14. Contextualization of themes. And 15. Composite summary. Hickner later modified his 1985 step-by-step procedures in analyzing data into 5 in 1999, wherein related items were fused together, namely: 1. Bracketing of phenomenological reduction. 2. Delineating units of meanings. 3. Clustering of units of meanings or themes. 4. Summarizing each interview, validating it, and where necessary, modifying it. And 5. Extracting general and unique themes from all the interviews and making a composite summary. Polkinghorne suggested a general format for the phenomenological investigation as follows. 1. Gather a number of naive descriptions from people who are having or have had the experience under investigation. 2. Engage in a process of analyzing these descriptions so that the researcher comes to a grasp of the constituents or common elements that make the experience what it is. 3. Produce a research report that gives an accurate, clear, and articulate description of an experience. Bagley's post-intentional phenomenological research design includes the following 5 major components. 1. Identify a phenomenon in its multiple, partial, and varied context. 2. Establish a breeding plan. 3. Devise a clear, yet flexible process for collecting data appropriate for the phenomenon under investigation. 4. Read and write through the corpus of data in a systematic, responsive manner. 5. Craft a text that captures and illuminates tentative manifestations of the phenomenon in its multiple, partial, and varied context. Georgie, and Morley have provided 5 procedures for data analysis. 1. The first step is to read through the written descriptions provided by the participants all the way to the end. In order to do a proper analysis, one has to know how the described lived experience ends. 2. While the normal, natural attitude is sufficient for the first step, the rest of the analysis requires that the researcher assumes the attitude of the phenomenological, psychological, or scientific reduction. 3. Now, since descriptions can be lengthy, they have to be broken into parts so that the proper analysis of the descriptions can be done. 4. Once the meaning units are determined, the task of the next step is to transform the meaning contained in the description in phenomenologically, psychologically sensitive ways. 5. The last step is to get the general structure of the experience. This is done by reviewing all of the transformations written in the second column in order to determine the essential ones. Smith, Flowers, and Larkin provided 6 steps of data processing for interpretative phenomenological analysis studies. 1. Reading and rereading. 2. Initial noting or writing notes on the transcripts. 3. Developing emergent themes. 4. Searching for connections across emergent themes. 5. Moving to the next case or next participant's transcripts. And 6. Looking for patterns across cases. Reduction is employed to minimize reflexive interpretation in a phenomenological research. Since phenomenology is primarily focusing on interpretation of experiences, there is a probability that researcher merges his or her personal experiences with those of the subject. To be human is to be interpretive, with the interpreter always bringing his or her own experiences and frames of reference to his or her understanding of the phenomena. There is always a tendency on the part of the researcher to make assumptions or judgments about the phenomena when such impulses is not withheld. Such personally held belief or prejudices could be deliberately set aside or suspended in order to gain a clear view of the phenomenon. Reflexivity is a built-in nature of qualitative research, which can be minimized through bracketing or epoch, epoch, or Epoche. Bracketing is a technique of minimizing the chance of committing reflexivity by the researcher in the interpretation of the data. It is achieved through the phenomenological processes of epoch, also known as bracketing, whereby the researcher purposefully sets aside any preconceived knowledge or everyday beliefs he or she regards might be used to explain the phenomena being investigated. Epoch or epoche or epoch or epoch is a Greek word meaning to refrain from judgment so that the personal prejudices and assumptions are set aside. The brackets serve as indicators that remind the researcher to be careful in analyzing the items because they are vulnerable to reflexivity or of researchers' biases. Prior beliefs about a phenomenon of interest are temporarily put aside or bracketed so as not to interfere with seeing or intuiting the elements or structure of the phenomenon. Phenomenology adopts the method called thematic analysis as suggested by Hickner in his 1985 and 1999 edition, Smith and his co-authors, and as implied by Polkinghorne, to identify latent patterns from the data. Themes in qualitative research are similar codes aggregated together to form a major idea in the database. For example, in a study of the experience of pain, all occurrences of talk about pain might be coded into categories such as talk about the causes of pain, the effects of pain, and treatment used to alleviate pain. Each interview transcript and each written account needs to undergo thematic analysis. Those with similar concepts or contexts are aggregated or clustered together to form one theme or dimension. Various themes which are unique with each other could be cropped up from the different participants during the coding process. The researcher extracts the common themes from all participants and writes a composite summary for each theme. Smith and his co-authors suggested 6 ways researchers can look for patterns and connections among emergent themes. 1. Abstraction involves clustering like with like in a superordinate theme and giving it a new name. 2. Subsumption occurs when an emergent theme itself is considered superordinate theme as it assists in clustering a series of related themes. 3. Polarization includes exploring for oppositional relationships among emergent themes. Here, differences and not similarities are examined. 4. Conceptualization requires the researchers to look for connections among emergent themes by identifying the contextual elements such as temporal or cultural themes. 5. Numeration consists of making frequency count regarding how often the emergent theme is supported. And 6. Function involves the researchers examining the emergent themes for their particular function within their transcript. The final stage of phenomenology is writing the final report, commonly written in narrative style, usually theme by theme with thick descriptions so that readers feel the shared experiences of the participants. Expector, Merrill, Ellen, and Bishop claimed that phenomenology seeks to enable readers to better understand and feel what the participants may have felt in the way she or he may have felt it. The development of a full narrative, evidenced by a detailed commentary on data extracts, which takes the reader through this interpretation, usually theme by theme, and is often supported by some form of visual guide such as a simple structure, diagram, or table. By employing tick descriptions, the lived experiences are vividly described based from the researcher's interpretations extracted from the narrations of the key informants or subjects or participants. The strategy of tick descriptions, whereby the widest possible range of information is provided, allows for judgments of transferability by appliers. Polkinghorne suggested that the research report gives an accurate, clear, and articulate description of an experience. The reader of the report should come away with the feeling that I understand better what it is like for someone to experience that. Van Manen offered some suggestions for producing a lived experience description. 1. You need to describe the experience as you live through it. Avoid as much as possible causal explanations, generalizations, or abstract interpretations. For example, it does not help to state what caused your illnesses, why you like swimming so much, or why you feel that children tend to like to play outdoors more than indoors. 2. Describe the experience from the inside, as it were almost like a state of mind, the feelings, the mood, the emotions, etc. 3. Focus on particular example or incident of the object of experience. Describe specific events, an adventure, a happening, a particular experience. 4. Try to focus on an example of the experience which stands out for its vividness or as it was the first time. 5. Attend to how the body feels, how things smelled, how they sounded, and others. 6. Avoid trying to beautify your account with fancy phrases or flowery terminology. The dissertation of Pasarek Tork in University of Minnesota titled A Phenomenological Investigation of Online Learners' Lived Experiences of Engagement is herein presented as model research. It has 6 chapters, namely, Chapter 1, Introduction, Chapter 2, Literature Review, Chapter 3, Methodology, Chapter 4, Analysis of Data, Chapter 5, Narrative Representation of the Research Findings, and Chapter 6, Conclusions and Implications. This study was conducted for 8 months prior to the conclusion of the course. It utilized a purposive sampling technique. There were 4 subjects of this study from a total of 17 graduate students who are enrolled to an online graduate course of a certain university in the United States. A general interview guide was used which is flexible enough to allow new directions. The following are the research questions of the study. 1. What is it like to be an adult learner in online learning environments? 2. What is it like to experience engagement in online learning environments? And 3. How do various elements of learning online and dynamics of the learning environment influence adult learners' feelings of engagement? A thematic analysis was used to identify themes of pedagogic significance which are 1. Unboundedness, which is a collective name of 9 emergent themes. 2. Engagement as a form of praxis, which is a unified nomenclature of 6 emergent themes. And 3. Temporal nature of engagement, which is a cluster name of the 6 emergent themes. The researcher discussed this per theme in Chapter 5, wherein direct quotes were lifted from the lived experiences of the participants. ends our research lecture series for today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon, and share the link to your students, classmates, or friends. Thank you for watching.